Hi everyone, Ghost here, and this time we're talking about The Expanse, Osiris Reborn, which is in closed beta now. Closed in the sense that you need to buy the Collector's or Miller's edition to play it, and then fill out a survey to share your impressions with Owlcat Games. I've dedicated a lot of my channel to Owlcat's work, so one day I got weak and ended up spending €8 on a 2-hour demo. I'm kinda joking, since the game is not bad at all, and it's more of a pre-order to support the devs. I have faith in Alcon Games eventually delivering the game, so I bought it. I really liked it, but there are a couple of things that had me worried, and I'm going to tell you about them in painful detail. The fun thing about Osiris Reborn is that everyone is covering it, saying all kinds of different things, giving it all kinds of scores, and not even agreeing on how long this beta is. I mean, that's not a difficult thing to nail down, unless you're skipping all the dialogue and lore bits and just running to the pew-pew parts. So I figured, why not throw my own 2 cents into the ocean? I'm sure this video will perform well among the other thousands. Anyway, as a word of caution, I've read the books and seen the TV series, and I played through this beta twice, taking opposite decisions. I kinda know what the subject matter is, and I frankly think that the book series breathed new life into the space opera genre, which had been kinda stale since the 60s. The first thing I want to warn you against is approaching this game expecting Mass Effect. It's Mass Effect inspired in its gameplay, for sure, but it doesn't have the same production budget behind it. Also, what made Mass Effect a very interesting trilogy is its story and setting, which in Osiris Reborn is completely different. We don't have sexy all-female alien races that predate on your DNA for reproduction, or a sprawling galaxy full of different species and cultures. If you aren't familiar with it, while there is some weird alien stuff going on, and I won't spoil it for you, The Expanse is a story about humanity spreading across the solar system, giving its best and its worst at the same time. Technology is advanced, but humans still travel at sub-light speed, and it takes weeks or months to travel from one planet to another. In this beta, we play as a contractor for Pinkwater Security, one of the many private firms spread across the system. They provide personnel for a variety of clients, one of which is Eros Station. Eros is a large asteroid in the belt that has been carved out and settled. Humans have evolved into 3 subspecies, if you will, with physical and cultural differences depending on where their ancestors settled. The United Nations represents all the Earth, plagued by overpopulation, poverty, and rising sea levels. Mars is a driven, independent society focused on military prowess and scientific progress. Finally, we have the Belters, humans who settled across spacecraft and stations in the asteroid belt, often poor, ostracized, and exploited. These 3 factions view each other with distrust, while racism and social unrest are common. Technically, it's not really racism, since people in this future are often of mixed heritage. It's more cultural xenophobia, but you get the meaning of it. For the beta, we can choose to play as an Earther or a Belter, and pick either Officer or Hacker as our class. In the full release, we'll be able to play as a Martian as well, with more classes to choose from. You can bet I'm going to do my first playthrough as a Martian officer, unless something juicier shows up. Our character has a twin, simply called Jay, who acts as our companion and takes the opposite available class. For example, if we choose to be an Earther officer, he'll be an Earther hacker. If we play as Belters, we are a pair of female twins. We're also collectively known as Gemini, a call sign given to us by Pinkwater, pulling from constellation names. Classes have skill trees, some of them different depending on our starting choice. They are divided into combat, exploration, and personal trees. While it's too early to go into every single perk, since things will likely change, it's interesting to note that they range from shooting, to gadget usage for the hacker, to leadership, which affects companions, to perception, which lets us spot hidden items or eavesdrop on conversations, and so on. Being an Earther, a Belter, or eventually a Martian gives us a bonus in a specific skill tree. The beta drops us at what feels like the beginning of Act 1, right after the prologue. Minor spoilers, but this happens early in both the books and the TV series, and it's referred to as the Eros incident. To stay vague, someone releases a pathogen on Eros Station and uses it as a giant petri dish, without the population knowledge. Disaster follows, along with the strong private military response to cover everything up. Our character and their twin were part of a Pinkwater detachment on Eros and barely managed to escape. We are the only survivors of our squad and dock a Pinkwater station on a stolen ship. On the station, we get a moment of respite, exploring, gathering lore, and talking to NPCs. We meet Zafar, a probably Martian Pinkwater tech who seems to be our friend and is set up as a future companion. In the full release, we'll be able to take 2 companions on missions. He's calm, philosophical, and hinted at having a troubled past. We also meet an overworked Belter dispatcher and a chatty quartermaster. This is where some good and bad elements start to show. First, belters are correctly taller and leaner, as described in the setting, due to low-gravity environments. I'm glad to see this, since the TV show couldn't fully portray it due to budget constraints. On the negative side, dialogue feels sluggish, taking too long to move between characters.
It's interesting to hear who's buying what, of course, but I want to know some real secrets.
Yeah, right. Real secrets are safe with me. Rings any bells?
Ah, come on. You know so much, it must be impossible to keep it all to yourself.
Fine. The most intriguing story is about you, my dears. They say you're criminals hiding away here as mercenaries.
Oh man, undercover agents would have been way cooler.
What really bothered me though is that belters don't sound like they should. In the setting, they speak a Creole language made from multiple languages, often hard to understand for outsiders. This is very important, and something the TV series absolutely nailed. Here, they mostly sound like standard Americans. I hope this is just an early voice placeholder for the beta and will be fixed. It wouldn't feel like a proper The Expanse game without a Lang Belta. It appears briefly in written logs and one line of dialogue, but it needs to be spoken. If clarity is a concern, subtitles solve that problem. This is important and shouldn't be overlooked. Let me be very clear on this. If the game doesn't nail the Belter and Martian accents, it's going to fail hard. That's a core pillar of the setting. Back at the station, the calm doesn't last long. A ship from Protogen, a shady mercenary company, arrives and demands our surrender. Here the game shows one of its promised strengths, choice. We can convince our boss to fight, turning the station into a battlefield, or tell him to stand down and focus on escaping. These choices lead to different outcomes, including Protogen slaughtering the station and eventually blowing it up, or leaving with minimal violence. During our escape, we traverse the station inside and out. The zero-gravity sections are excellent. We walk on the exterior with mag boots, fighting zero-G, and even fly through debris in a scripted sequence. Killed enemies and destroyed objects float into space, and movement feels disorienting in a good way. The books and TV series really lean into a believable portrayal of how gravity works in space, and I'm glad to see they nailed this part. Exploration in zero-G is initially confusing, as it should be, and I really liked it. We open paths, find hidden stashes, and interact with the environment. I hope there is a lot more of this in the final release. Many games get zero-G wrong, but this feels promising. Sound behavior in space is a bit inconsistent though, so I hope that gets refined. Sound doesn't travel in vacuum. In the series there is a scene in which two people talk by touching helmets, to allow the vibration to transfer, and it was great. Combat is where the game feels closest to Mass Effect. It uses cover shooter mechanics with a lot of destructible cover. We have various weapons, from pistols to shotguns to rifles, which can be upgraded at a workbench using materials found or purchased. We can carry two weapons, one with a long barrel and one with a short barrel, and switch between them. We can slow time during combat and issue commands to companions. Gadgets add special abilities like scanning enemies, firing rockets, or deploying drones. We can also equip suit subsystems to boost stats. Suits themselves are only cosmetic right now, which is disappointing. I hope they put real combat suits into the game with stats, because I definitely want to wear Martian power armor and unleash hell on my enemies. Enemy variety includes standard troops, snipers, shielded units, a mini-boss, and heavily armored enemies we can't handle directly. In that case, we rely on Zafar to support us with ship cannons. Companion abilities are very effective and satisfying to use, without taking control away from the player. The game also shows environmental reactivity. For example, the station armory can be looted or found empty depending if we convince the station boss to defend against the Protogen boarding parties or to stand down. This kind of consequences to our decisions is something I like to see in action RPGs. Visually, the game looks good for a AA production, helped by the Unreal Engine. There are the usual hiccups and textures popping in, which I hope will be polished. The environments feel alive, with details like personalized workspaces, plants to produce oxygen, ads everywhere, and news broadcasts referencing events like the Canterbury incident and James Holden.
The explosion at the ice hauler, Canterbury, has caused a water supply crisis on Ceres and renewed discussion over the inevitability of a military conflict between Mars and Earth. One of the survivors, the executive officer of the Canterbury, James Holden, has published a video in which he declares that the ice hauler was destroyed by the MCRN.
The station exterior is blocky and functional, like those stations are described to be, and the emptiness of space above us looks fantastic. Character models are solid with decent facial expressions. That's all I can say about this beta. When it ended, I wanted to play more, which is the best compliment I can give. I want to see how the story unfolds and meet our companions. I enjoy the Expanse as a series, so I hope Alcon does it justice. A lot is already good in my opinion, but some things need serious refinement, especially accents. Martial needs their twang, and Belters need their Creole. That's the biggest concern I have. Everything else feels fixable before release. Alcon ended Warhammer well, so I believe they can do the same here. I'm Avenghost and I play Western RPGs to full completion before talking about them. I cover them regardless of their age or production size. If you like what I do, consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel, it helps a lot. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you in the next video.